the Hell Fucking Yeah podcast.
All right.
Seth, what's up, man?
How's it going, man?
How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good.
Good. How's the weather over there, man?
The weather is beautiful. Where are you?
I'm Long Island, New York.
Oh, we love Long Island. Actually, our guitar player is there.
Oh, no doubt.
Long Island, Rhode Island?
Long Island, bro.
Long Island, man.
Long Island, man. Strong Island is what they call it.
Strong Island. You can go bug him.
Yeah, man. I just got out of the pool. It's fucking hot over here.
Yeah, it's beautiful out here, man.
You're in LA, right?
Yeah.
Did you grow up there?
Born and raised in LA. I actually lived in Boston. I was on the East Coast from like 5 to 11, and then I moved back.
Okay. How did Crazy Town start?
Crazy Town has been, I've been involved with music since I was a teenager. I started breakdancing, doing graffiti, and I was always that kid with a rhyme book, and it was just part of my life. What happened though is, I was also really into punk rock music, living in Boston, also a lot of great bands from out of there. So I had this I was the kid who breakdanced and rap, but I had a mohawk. I was like I was just a skater kid. So what happened is when I heard License to Ill, it was kind of like set me on a tangent because it was the perfect balance of all my influences. And I really felt like that is really what made me decide this is what I'm going to do. And so I was excelling at skateboarding, but it's kind of like as a young kid, you got to pick which one you're going to run with. And I picked music. And
sure.
So I made music my life. And so as, I was best friends with the producer now everyone knows as Alchemist, Alan,
yes,
and Scott Kahn. And we were some wild kids, just like a lot of us. But we were lucky enough that they got signed to Buzztone and made a record called The Hooligans.
Yeah.
And it was, Lethal and Muggs and Be Real, produced their record. So, me being young and their best friend, I was around that whole process.
Right.
And, they kind of let me, roll with them through that whole experience. And I actually ended up coming out on stage with them. And I remember we played this show in Madison Square Gardens. It was the first time that Be Real gave me a mic, and he's like, get out there, because they were small and they were too far back on the stage. So everyone at the front couldn't see him. And he's like, Seth, get him out there. So when B handed me the mic, I went out there and I knew all the words to the song. So I rocked it with him. And actually, I think we had taken these Lemon 7 fucking Quaaludes. So it was like the whole experience was on steroids, it was everything was so fucking amazing. And so when we were out there rocking it, we ended up stage diving into this sick crowd. And basically, we lost our shoes, but it was the best time of my life. And it was when I got out there and I grabbed the mic and they let me they looked at me and they're like, okay, let Seth rock it. And when I rocked it, I just knew right then, I was like, this is what I'm going to do if it kills me. This is, and you can't, it was better than, any high I'd ever experienced. And so after that, I remember I remember sitting on the bus with Be Real, and he's like, yo, Seth, so what are you going to do? What's your thing? And I was like, I'm going to rap. Yeah. It's like, that's what you want to do, bro. You can do it. You can do anything you want. And he kind of gave me a, that big brother push. And Sendog, they always were so cool to me. So, I kind of got blessed by the best and just kind of started recording and going, I also grew up with will.i.am. So will.i.am.
Oh, wow.
We were really good friends. And, I'm the one who I was real knew all the kids in Hollywood. So I remember Will was busting. We went to Palisades High School, and Will was obviously, he was I knew this kid's no joke. I mean, his freestyles back then, I'd be like, oh my God, this kid's got it. So I would always hit up Will. I'd be like, yo, they're having, there was some I was in the graffiti scene. So I'd always hear about these freestyle competitions, and I'd hit up Will. I'd be like, Will, you got to go to this freestyle competition. You're going to win. And it'd be like, Seth, man, I'm out here. He's like, I'm down in South Central. how am I going to get there? I was like, I'm going to take my mom's car. I'm going to come get you and we're going to go. And so I started taking him to all these freestyle competitions. And basically, you know, that's where Will ended up getting signed by Ruthless Records and scouted. And so when Will got signed to Ruthless Records, they sent him in to record with one of the producers that Ruthless Records used. And it happened to be who I ended up starting Crazy Town with, was Brett Mazer. Okay. So Brett Mazer, the first Black Eyed Peas album was called The At Band Clan. It was on Ruthless Records. You can go look it up. It's dope. But the first record, you know, Will and Brett produced a lot of the songs on that album. So they were chilling one night in the studio, and Brett was like, yo, I want to do some shit myself, and I'm just looking for the right kid to do it with. And Will was like, I got your kid. He called me up. He's like, yo, Seth. And it was kind of like, you know, we always looked out for each other, just like I would pick him up and take him to, he was like, yo, I got this fucking dope producer who wants to do a group, and I think you're perfect for it. So I had a group with Bernard Williams, who was like my best friend, and me and him had been rhyming like we were, you know, we were a group, and we already had the name Crazy Town. Right. But it's kind of like we were working with, Will made my first demo with my friend Jesse Phelps. And then me and Bernard were, you know, me, Jesse, and Bernard were vibing. Jesse was like going big with his school. So me and Bernard were more like the knuckleheads who were like, yeah, we're gonna be in music. And I don't, you know, when you're young, it's like half your friends take you seriously. The other half are like, yeah, it's just another band. The homies are just, sure. But then when we hooked up with Brett, he already had platinum records under his belt. He's working with Eazy-E's, working with the Black Eyed Peas. So Brett is the one who came in and made it real. He took our vibe and what our vision was. The name Crazy Town comes from, I grew up in West LA, and it's borders, you know, Venice and Culver City and Santa Monica. So we were in a gang called West Side Crazies, which was like a third generation gang. It started, you know, way before I was around, but it was kind of like, if you were going to live there, you know, you would go to house parties, and if you weren't connected the right way, you could catch a bad one going into these different areas. Because there was gang. I mean, yeah, Beverly Hills was on one side of us, but the motherfuckers in Venice and Culver City and Santa Monica, they were straight. You know, they were thugging. So it was kind of like, it was just part of the evolution of us to become part of West Side Crazies. So me, Scotty Kahn, and Bernard became part of West Side Crazies. So then we kind of like labeled, the name Crazy Town came from like, all right, we're going to do something positive. You know, we're going to take this, like, you know, like we weren't trying to go down the dark gangbanging path. Kind of like, you know, we're going to be like Snoop from Long Beach. He was a Crip. It's just kind of like, we're going to make music, and we're going to use the name and kind of do something dope, because it's like, we're more than just like some you know, hooligans. So anyway, so we took that name, and then when Brett joined the group, it became official. And we started working on music, and then me and Bernard got into some big trouble, and we got arrested. It was a ridiculous situation. Like some kid, like I sold weed, and like I lived with my mom, and the carpets were all fucked up because I was a popular kid, man. I had traffic. So the fucking carpets were fucked up, and I'm a Virgo. I knew they were fucked up, but like my mom and dad are going through a divorce, and she's worried about paying the bills. The last thing I was thinking about is I got fucked up carpets. But then we had these rich kids coming over from Beverly Hills, and they didn't even need to sell weed or anything. And there's this one kid who was like single white female. Like I'd be like, oh, when I blow up, I'm gonna get that car. And then he was all rich, and he'd roll up in the car, and I'd be like, oh, I was like, this motherfucker is straight taking my ideas. So then I had these cute girls. There was this one girl I had a crush on, and she kind of like stopped coming to my house for weed. And I was like tripping. And then I called her, and she was like, well, you know, to be honest, you know, this Beverly Hills kid started selling weed, but he didn't need the money. He was just doing it to have juice with the girls. And he was like giving her weed. So I was like, oh, okay, so now he's taking my customers. This is one that I like. So I had a resentment against him. And then she goes, and you know what, dude? He was making fun of the carpets on your stairs. And I was like, he did what? I was like, so now he's talking shit about my house, the spoiled brat, talking shit about the carpets in my house. I was like, you know, that's personal. I'm gonna kill him. So basically, we ended up like doing this. We were like, I was gonna rob him. of his weed.
Right.
And don't ever talk shit about my carpets.
That's it.
You don't go talking shit about my carpets. That ain't. So anyway, the whole thing went bad, and we literally, it didn't go well. I mean, anyway, long story short, we ended up like on LA's Most Wanted, and we were at the end of America's Most Wanted. We got away from the police on the freeway, so we had like 9 felonies, and we all ran and were hiding. It wasn't, it was like a, whatever. We were listening to too much Biggie Smalls, and.
So you made it on America's Most Wanted, man. That's not enough.
Yeah, I wasn't actually. I was at the end, but it was like the same. What's his name? The announcer. He was like John, whatever his name.
Yeah, I forget.
He was like, tonight, LA's Most Wanted, and they had, but it was messed up because actually that came out after they caught us. They finally caught us. They did a whole sting operation at my house. And like, it was crazy because when they finally arrested us, they showed us that they had been watching my mom's house from helicopters and had all these photos. And we're like, long story short, we went in and got arrested for 9 felonies. They tried to turn it into a home invasion thing, which it wasn't really, because this kid was a drug dealer and we were just taking his weed. It wasn't like,
right.
It was more of like a territorial, like a carpet thing. So, when we went in there, what we did is he was selling weed to all these young, like wealthy girls. So we went and got affidavits from all of them. We ended up getting actually one of the attorneys. It was weird because one of the kids that I went and did it with, his aunt worked with one of the guys that were actually OJ's attorneys.
No way.
So we ended up getting this baller attorney for free. It was a total shot. And we went in and we turned it from 9 felonies to 1 charge. So basically, when we got affidavits and proved that the kid was selling weed, they wanted to plea out because they didn't want to deal with the fact that like his parents were like, oh no, we're embarrassed our kid was selling drugs.
Sure.
So we manipulated the situation into what it should have been. And so I ended up getting like a pistol whipping charge instead of 9 felonies. So on that charge, I had to do an observation and have 5 years formal probation. But I had like a cap on it. So if I messed up over those 5 years, I'd go and do the whole 3 to 5, which was messed up.
Yeah.
And it's a crazy story because when I went to do the 90-day observation, 90% of the people don't get out of Chino on a 90-day observation. All the homies were like, man, you're doing 2 to 3. And I was like trying to stay out of trouble there because they like observe you to see if you're prison material, which I probably was. And what happened is they put me in the wrong yard and I got lost in like the computer. And one day I get called into the warden's office and everyone's like, oh man, the warden never calls in anybody.
Wow.
So like I was like, fuck. And I go in there and they had done these therapist like interviews with me to see how I, to see if I was potential. And I was trying to like finesse the therapist, but it didn't work. So when I went in there, there's this guy in a cowboy hat and he puts his feet on the desk and he pulls back the papers and he's like, so I'm looking at what these therapists have recommended for you. And both of them recommend that you do 2 years. And my heart sunk and I was just like, oh my God.
Oh, man.
And I'd already been in there 90 days and I was trying to be a good kid. And like,
yeah.
And he goes, but I'm going to override their decision.
Wow.
Because apparently, my niece, Dina. And I was like, Dina? You mean my ex Dina? And it turned out that she had heard that I was in jail. And it was weird because not only was she a girl that we had ended well, but her grandma lived with her and would babysit her kid when she'd go to work. And I'd always be there because I'd spent the night before. And I would sit there and drink coffee with her grandma and talk about life. But, and it turned out that grandma's brother was the warden of Chino State Prison.
Wow.
And she had written a letter saying, Seth's a good kid. He was caught up in the wrong stuff, but look out for him. So the warden overrode the therapist and I got out. And so now I'm on this probation. But when I got out, epic was Bernard, on the other hand, he got 2 years.
Oof.
So he got a robbery charge. So basically I got out and I continued to work with Brett. Right. So that's how Bernard ended up not being in the group, is we started recording and I was talking to Bernard every day and I called him and I was like, yo, we just got offered a record deal. What should I do? And he was like, if you don't take that record deal, I'm gonna kill you. He's like, we've worked on this. He's like, I'm in jail. We'll figure it out when I get out. But right now you take that record deal. So I kept the name Crazy Town with Brett.
Yeah.
We signed to Columbia Records. And it was a trip, because when we got offered the record deal, the first person that offered us a record deal was Scott Weiland. Scott Weiland heard Butterfly. He was in the studio next door. He came in. He was like, "This is a fucking hit," and he was like, "I want to sign you." And you know, I mean, he's one of my idols, so that was amazing. But then the same week, our good friend Jay Gordon was in the band Orgy, and he played it for Korn. And Korn heard Scott Weiland one decide us, and they're like, "No, we want to sign you to Elementary." So all of a sudden, like, two of my favorite bands of all time are offering us record deals. And what happened is it got into this magazine called Hits Magazine, where it said Buzzing Band of the Week. And back then it was a little different, but it was like Crazy Town. You know, it's Scott Weiland and Korn feud over who's going to get them. And when that happened, all the majors. So basically it went from like two artists offering us deals to me getting calls from, from David Geffen going, these guys are going to offer you deals, or do you want to go to the biggest record label in the world? And then, then Donnie Einer calls me and he's like, "Yeah, David Geffen and Steven Spielberg are going to give you more money, but I'm from Columbia Records and I'll make you a fucking star, guaranteed." So then, and Cypress was on Columbia. So our instincts were like, should we take more money or should we go to the bigger, go to Columbia? And I was like, that's where like my idol Cypress Hill are signed. I'm going to Columbia Records. So we signed to Columbia Records, and the rest is kind of history. We made our record. We put out Butterfly. He pressed the button. It went number one. It went platinum in 19 countries. Yeah. And it almost got too big. But you got to be careful, Yeah. And basically our first tour, when we went to Columbia, it kind of like was weird because we were like more of like a rage / if you listen to the rest of the first album, Butterfly was like a unique song that I'd written about my girlfriend. And that's the one that all the labels liked, obviously, because it had hit potential. Yeah. But there was more to us. But our first tour, we're on the Columbia Records showcase on tour with Destiny's Child. So it was like totally weird. Like, we were playing to these massive audiences, and it ended up, we were like this band that crossed over to a pop world. And, it went number one on the Latin charts in English. Like, that song blew up. So it was like, at the same time as we were like, wow, like this is bigger than we ever dreamed of, it had a bad factor to it. Because all of a sudden it got so big. We went from being on Ozfest to number one on TRL, and people didn't know the rest of our record. And all of a sudden we appeared to some people as like some boy band or some contrived thing. It was like, it got so commercial that I was like, stop, this is not just, and, but now I've learned to love the song. It stood the test of time. It's been in movies, and it's actually like, that was my dream. I remember I lived down the street from Tone Loc, and I used to like go over there and hang out with his nephew. And I remember going into his studio and seeing a platinum plaque on the wall. And I was like, one day I'm gonna have one of those. That's my dream. Yeah. And my dream came true. It's not, life doesn't always give you the perfect outcome, but I'm happy with the outcome. So.
Yeah, man, that's amazing, man. First of all, amazing band start story. It doesn't get much better than that, man. And I was going to ask you about Butterfly. Like, obviously it treated you very well, but I was just listening to it the other day, actually. I was like, you know what? I haven't heard this song in a while. And when it came out, that was my fucking jam, man. Right. And I listened to it. I'm like, you know what? This does stand the test of time, just like you just said. It's still a fucking good song, but are you sick of it? Like,
no, I went through being sick of it.
Yeah.
But now it's to the point where, 3 members of Crazy Town have died since we came out. DJ Aaron, Bernard Williams, who I was in prison with.
Yeah.
He ended up passing away of it. And all 3 of them, and then our guitar player, Rusty Peak, died, all 3 of them from overdoses. I was probably the one that everyone would have put their money on to die. And somehow I lived. I just got lucky,
Wow.
But so after living and dying a couple of times and making it through and then bringing me back, I learned a new appreciation for the fact that I know so many great artists. Like, living in LA, like, I see so many bands and so many people that I might, that I think are better than me even. And when I saw that and I realized, man, I hit the lotto. I'm, why am I, sitting here critiquing how big I got when there's like all these artists that never even get a chance to do half of what I did. So now I have a new appreciation for the success. I've been able to do it. You know, I put out that song with Paul Oakenfold that went top 10. So that was cool because it was like, I always knew that I was capable of having other hits, and that kind of like made me a 2-hit wonder. And then like, you know, all that shit is stupid anyway, because,
right.
you know, at the end of the day, like, you know, to have a song that big is a blessing. But, you know, then I had that other song, and now it's not like I don't have anything to prove. I make music because I love it. We put out a record in 2015 called The Brimstone Sluggers. And when that record came out, it was just because I missed doing what I loved. You know, I'd gotten fucked up on drugs and a lot of heartbreak and all the, you know, fucking, you know, misconstrued idea of who I was because of the song getting so big, and like, whatever. It's just a weird experience to go through that. But after all that, I came back and I was like, you know what? I know what I'm about. What I'm going to do is, you know, there's no more MTV. There's no this. So basically I reformed the band. I went to Brett, who's actually like, he's doing scores for films now. And he's doing this, you know, he's doing the music for like Walking Dead, and he's living a good life. And he was like, Seth, I'm not trying to go on tour in dirty vans and sleep in hotel rooms. And I was like, well, that's what I want to do for the rest of my life. So kind of, he just said, take Crazy Town, man, you know, do your thing. And he helps me with production. I've also got, you know, we've got Rick One from the 3013 music group. He you know, is worked with the Black Eyed Peas for many years. He's producing with us and DJing with us. And I put together this band. Basically what happened is I found this boutique booking agent at Satellite Touring. You know, we went from having Metallica's manager to, you know, now I'm with a boutique booking agency. But I realized, man, my band was big enough that I never have to put out a hit song again. Right. And I can tour for the rest of my fucking life.
Yeah.
So I said, you know what? You know, I know bands that are great that they don't even go to Europe. No one knows who they are. I go to Europe. I'm bigger in Europe.
Right.
So we started booking shows. I said, book me in every Viper room in the world. You know, I was like, I want to play every dirty club in every fucking city that no other big bands will go to. And I started out on doing that. And I found these band members. One band opened up for us in Italy. And I thought, these kids are fucking rock stars. And they ended up becoming part of Crazy Town. And so like, you know, now it's trickled down to, I got a guitar player from Rhode Island. I got a guitar player from Italy. And now the one from Rhode Island is going to medical school. And so like he stepped down for a minute. So we just added this new kid who's came here from Russia. And the kid's a little powerhouse, man. And it's like we ran into him in the jacuzzi at my drummer's building. Like we were like, who the fuck is this kid? And he came in and played the guitar and blew us away. So it's like, it's this band of like these kids who all have that fire. They all want to make music their whole life, and to be in a band like Crazy Town to them is a dream come true. So I got these young, you know, everyone's 10 years younger than me. Everyone's full of fire. And we just, you know, we went on tour. And at first, you know, we were playing some places that were probably too big for us after 10 years, you know, and like, but I saw the potential. And so we kept touring all the way up until COVID started. And by going back to like, you know, Europe and Germany and all these places, we went from like, you know, 200 or 300 people to packing everywhere, selling out. And I saw it working, you know, because we were getting up close and personal, and you know, we were rebuilding the band from the ground up. And so then I took this money right before COVID, and we went in. I went back to Howard Benson and Mike Plotnikoff. Mike Plotnikoff is you know, Howard Benson's partner, and they have a studio down in West Hills in the Valley. And they've done, I mean, they did all the POD records. They did Papa Roach. They did My Chemical Romance, 3 Days Grace, like everyone. They're a powerhouse production team. So when we had done their record, our second album, which is one of Crazy Town's, like my favorite records, is called Dark Horse. Yep. And that one was kind of right as we were breaking up. And it's like a little heavy, so it didn't have a butterfly on it. So the label was like, what do we do with this after you're this pop sensation? And we were like, figure it out, homie. And they didn't figure it out. By the way, I love the peaking skull in the background.
Oh, thank you.
Sure, that's me at one part of my life.
Yeah.
So anyway, you know, long story short, I don't know where I was, but We toured. We kicked
Dark
ass.
Horse.
Yeah, we called the producer of Dark Horse, which Columbia had paid them maybe $250,000, $500,000 to make our second record. Because it was following up Butterfly. So while we were on tour doing all this stuff, I was like, I compiled about 40 new demos, and they were all badass. And I saved up this shoebox of money from all the shows, and I was like, what am I going to do with it? It was like a fat shoebox. And I was like, am I going to go spend it on something stupid that I'll lose, or I'm going to invest in Crazy Town again, because the labels were out of the equation at this point. I was just riding. So I called up Howard Benson and Mike Plotnikoff, and I said, yo, I got this box of song, like money that's not as much as you guys normally get paid. And I got all these songs. Would you guys consider making a new Crazy Town album? And Howard Benson and Mike listened to it, and Mike called back, and Howard said, listen, Mike is trying to go off and do his own thing. I mean, Mike's already doing his own thing. Don't get it wrong. He did Buck Cherry. He did, he did a lot of cool things, but basically he was like, Mike would like to do your new record.
Yeah.
So we got to go in there, and Mike did it for, what I could afford, because I sent him the 40 songs, and he said, Seth, I can't even pick. He's like, these songs are badass. And, and when he says that, it was a huge compliment. But basically he picked the songs, and I took my money, and I said, let's do this. And I got to bring in all these young new musicians, and we just finished a new record that isn't out yet that I'm really excited. It's to me, it's the best record I've ever made. I love all our records, but obviously this one's really personal to me. And so we have that record ready to come out. And then on top of it, everything's coming together now, because I'm writing a book. I just got Soleil Moonfry, who put out this Kid 90 documentary on Hulu. Yeah, she's a beautiful girl, great friend of mine. Yeah. I've known her since I was in high school, and she's a director now. So we haven't found out exactly what part she's going to play in the documentary, but she is helping me make the documentary now, which is great because I love her work, and I'm excited about that. Because these are the things that are going to make Crazy Town relevant again. And, sometimes you can put out a record and it'll go under the radar. But with the book and the documentary, I really am excited about what will happen. And then out of left field, I just, a good friend, Kanye, the rapper, he's an LA kid who's got an amazing story. But I saw Be Real and all these people going in to support his new album. And then I get a call. Actually, my DJ is working on the album. So that's how it happened. He called and they were like, we want you to come in on the album. So I go down there to get on the album, and Raphael from Prayers, who's a band I love, Travis Barker, years ago, this Kat Von D's husband, super talented guy. Just I love their music. So what happened is he was on this record too. So we all went down to the studio, and we started talking. We were like, we should do a song. So we hooked up and we did this song, and it came out so cool. We were like, fuck it, let's keep going. Let's make an EP. So we just started a new project. It's called Only the Dead. It's called OTD, and it's Prayers and Crazy Town. Now DJ Lethal came in, and it's turned into this super group. And Tom DeMont from No Doubt's playing on one song. Now Travis is playing on a song. Wow. And so this new band is even super exciting. So I'm going to be walking out of COVID with a new Crazy Town record, Only the Dead, all this great shit. Yeah. Like, I feel like I've optimized, turned poison into medicine. This time it's been rough, like my mom got sick. I lost my uncle. Yeah. It's been a hard time for everybody, but I feel like a lot of musicians, a lot of artists in general, were able to optimize this time because absolutely, instead of going out and being busy all the time, we had time to sit and think and create. Yeah. So that's the deal, man. I'm excited about life. I'm really grateful to be alive. I've almost died a lot of times, and I don't need to be the biggest rock star in the world. I want to make music. Yeah. I want people to know me and learn who I am beyond Butterfly, because there's a lot more to me. And so I'm going to put out as many records as I can and do what I love,
Absolutely, man. And I was listening to Brimstone Sluggers this morning, actually, because I was like, let me catch up a little bit, dude, it's great, man. I haven't listened to that kind of genre in a long time, to be honest with you. but I almost feel like there's a resurgence of it on like the border, and I'm really excited about the new shit, man. What's Crazy Town X?
All right. Well, basically, Crazy Town X is when Brett said, "Run with it," take this.
Yeah.
It's our baby together. But he was like, "Seth, man, I understand. You want to go out there and rebuild Crazy Town. Brett can come back at any time. Brett's we just released a couple songs from the new album that you can find on YouTube. There's one song called Fly Away.
Okay.
And actually, how I told you Bernard, who I started Crazy Town with and then passed away.
Yes.
He had a son when he passed away, and his son has grown into this amazing musician, super talented, super good looking young kid. You can find him as Tanner Alexander. He's on Instagram. But so I had written a song that was kind of about surviving through all this chaos and losing so many people close to me. And I talk about Bernard in the song. So I called in Tanner, his son, and he sings the hook on it. So it's a super song that's very special to me. Tanner's really brought a very younger vibe to it. And so that song's on YouTube right now. I love it. It's called Fly Away. And the X, we also did a song with Hyro the Hero. Hyro the Hero, that one's out. It's called The Life I Chose. It's on YouTube right now. So awesome. A lot of young, new artists that we're vibing with. And, just like working with prayers, it's like all these kids grew up on Crazy Town. So now it's come full circle. We're making new music and they're all down to do stuff. So I'm honored to be doing music with all, this next generation of music.
Right.
And we put the X on it because it's me without Brett. It's like Crazy Town X. It's like the continuation of it.
Sure.
Like I'm bringing it in, and I just put the X on it, plus I like it.
Yeah. So now this is your first sober record, right?
Yes. It's the first record I completely made sober.
Now, how long have you been sober now?
4 years. Coming up on 4 years.
Wow.
But most long story. But anyway, 4 years. Basically, 4 years ago is when I made a decision to not party anymore.
Yeah. What was the turning point? I mean, I know you were, obviously on Celebrity Rehab and Sober House and all those shows. What was the real turning point for you?
The turning point for me was being over it and realizing that time was flying by. Yeah. And, obviously I overdosed a few times and I have sons now, man. It's not just about me. It's about me being a good father. It's about me, when we were younger, it was kind of like, I thought I was going to be part of the 27 Club. I just fucking woke up. I didn't die. All my friends were dying. I just happened to live. And then years and years are going by. Like I did so much damage to relationships and, my finances and all this shit because I didn't give a fuck. I was just kind of like, I didn't know what was going to happen, but I didn't expect to live this long. So, but here we are. And you know what? I'm really grateful to be alive. Like, I want to be that old tattooed dude on the porch telling stories to my grandchildren. Yeah. And so, like, if I want to live now, I have a lust to live. I have a lust to be a good dad. I have a lust to watch my kids grow up. And so, in turn to that, if I want to be here, and I want to stick around, I have to change the way I live.
Absolutely.
So that's what I work on every day. And it hasn't been perfect, but, I've grown so much and, I'm always growing. So.
Yeah. Well, man, I'm really happy for you. That's fucking amazing. How did you deal with sobriety during the pandemic? Did you just keep busy creating?
I went through some depression during the pandemic. It was kind of like I invested all my money in this record that I couldn't put out. We had all these tours canceled, but everyone was going through it.
Right.
But, I will tell you that what I've done is I just try to focus on the positive. I've tried to optimize it. I'm always art is my therapy. So I've used writing songs and being creative as my outlet. And that's really what it's all about. There's no perfect way to stay sane.
Yeah.
You gotta figure it out as you go along.
That's very true.
You're talking about, being crazy has kept me from going insane.
Yeah. So what would you say to like aspiring artists out there, such as yourself, with your kind of drives that think they need drugs to be creative?
You know what? It's weird because that's in the documentary, in the book I'm talking about now. It's like I was programmed by MTV when I was younger. You know, not only did my dad is a director and an art director, and so he worked for Chess Records, and I was conceived during the filming of Ladies and Gentlemen, the Rolling Stones. You know, my dad was directing that movie. So I've been hearing rock and roll since I was in my mom's stomach.
Sure.
So like, but you know, growing up, my dad partied. My dad did a gram of cocaine and a pint of whiskey a day my whole life, 35 years. Now he's sober and he's chill. He drinks wine, but he's sober. He's not on coke. So, but you know, growing up, I would hear him talk about how cool Keith Richards was. How does he maintain? He parties, so, you know, and it looked cool to me. I'm sorry, like I watched Beastie Boys break fucking beer cans on their head, beer drinking, sniffing glue. You know, my manager's crazy. He always smokes dust. Got his own room in the back of the bus. Like I was signing up for that life. You know, and you know, I might see someone that I looked up to die here or there, but at the end of the day, you know, I was that little kid sitting in front of MTV going, I want to grow up, I want to get a record deal, and I want to destroy shit. And that was like, that was the dream for me.
Right.
You fast forward and you get that money, and it's not as cool as you think it would be. Yeah. It's really a lot of like pain, confusion. There's a lot of aspects about being famous that like the people that I'd grown up with that I knew loved me for me disappeared for a while. I had a lot of like yes people around me, people handing me dope that didn't care if I lived or I died, and it got very shallow, and I looked at it and I wasn't really happy, and I also was really scared of, I mean, that's the word, you know, I was consuming so many drugs that it was scary.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I don't recommend it. I think that watching this now that I'm older, and now I'm watching it happen to the next generation, it's like no one will ever learn. It's like kids don't learn from the past mistakes, you know. It's like they all die themselves. I watch Mac Miller, I watch Little Peep, I watch all these amazing young artists that are dying now, you know, Juice WRLD. It's like, and now there's fentanyl and all this shit that if there was fentanyl in my time, I'd be dead.
I know, man. Yeah.
You know, my idea of how to make it through was I'm not going to shoot heroin. I'm just going to do huge amounts of cocaine, because not that many people I know do cocaine and die from cocaine. Right. I know do cocaine. Not that many people I know die, but everyone I know who shoots heroin eventually dies. Right. So that was my little theory: is just don't shoot dope and you might be okay. And it kind of worked, but not really.
Yeah, I think I had that theory myself for a little while. I had a cocaine bout for a good 5 years.
Right. Yeah.
I was doing it every day. I couldn't get in the car without taking a bump, you know?
Yeah. And you know what? Like sober, I mean, now I was high for so long. Being sober is the best high in the world.
It really is.
And now I get high on life. Life is really beautiful. And cocaine, you know, I had a lot of fun on cocaine, but it got very dark and it became very unattractive and nasty. And
it's funny. You don't think it changes you, but it really does. You know? It
really does. And then as soon as you start to see that, you know, at the beginning, I think it has a positive effect. It makes you more outgoing, makes you, you know,
it tricks you.
But then it tricks you, man. It takes you down. And
it really does.
My dad always told me, you know, he said the people who did heroin, most of them died. The ones who are lucky enough to live, it's almost like they were preserved, like an embalming fluid. He said the guys who did cocaine, their lives were destroyed. But if you're lucky enough to get off it, you can return to normal. Yeah. Then he said, but the motherfuckers who were doing speed, they're always going to be a little weird. Right. He's like, meth.
So true.
It was like, because cocaine and heroin come from plants. Meth, we're not sure where it comes from. It's kind of like
man-made
waste. But I did a lot of speed. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. Like, I'm just saying, like, that was my dad's analogy on drugs, you know, and they're all bad. And I think, luckily, like, my behavior has made it so my sons want nothing to do with drugs. I think, I wish that's why I did it, but that's not why I did it. But it's had a good effect on my family because I terrified the shit out of them.
Absolutely.
So, you know, my son is graduating tomorrow from high school, and he's never touched a drug in his life, never had alcohol, never done anything.
Right.
When I was 12 years old, you know, I was already fucking deep
Yeah.
in, you know, I was
Yeah.
bad. I was going to getting arrested and fucking robbing stores for spray paint and shit like that. So it's really cool to see my son taking a different route. And I don't recommend it. Like if you want to make music and you want to stand the test of time, drugs are not going to help you do it.
That's for sure. That's for sure, man. And, you know, it's totally true. Like you can, you know, when I stopped doing that, you know, I was like, I'll just have, you know, I'll start smoking weed. You know, I'll ease off with that. And then
I don't have a problem with weed.
What's
like,
that?
I don't have a problem with weed. Like
No, me neither.
Smoke weed, but so tell me, wait, you tried smoking weed out there?
It worked great. And then it got to a point where I was like, you know what? I don't even need that anymore. You know, I feel better just being me.
Yeah.
Just being clear. And
that's how I feel now.
Yeah. I mean, it gave me my creativity back, actually. Like last year, the pandemic, I was cutting hair for the past, I don't know, 5 years. I was a barber. And
I wanted to go there.
I had my own shop. It was just me working there, and the pandemic shut it down. I wasn't able to like keep up with the rent and all that stuff. So now I'm in my garage doing a podcast, and this is actually my 50th episode, 50 on the dot, and awesome guest to have on my 50th. And I fucking love doing it, man. I was a little off today because of, you know, where my head's at, but
understandable.
I love doing it, and because of this, you know, I met Fences. He really kind of started this whole thing. You know Chris, right?
Yeah. Chris is badass now.
I'm making a music video for him. I wish I had. So I'm in New York. He's in LA. I made an action figure version of him for the music video. I wish I had it with me, but I don't.
Did you make it yourself?
I made it completely myself from scratch. I found it it was like a Star Wars doll. I found it at this toy shop on my house. It was Liam Neeson from like episode 1.
Okay.
And I cut his hair, got the hat, got the shirt, pants, the boots. I drew all the tattoos on. I'm not a tattoo artist. However, yeah, on camera, it just looks like scribble. You know what I mean?
So is that going to be the video?
Yeah, basically, it's going to be like some stop motion animation and, you know, changing scenery, all green screen, really. Changing scenery behind him. It's almost done. I think I'm on like month 2. I'm a one-man team, you know. So from the beginning to the end, I made the whole thing, and I'm really excited about it, man. It's
that's cool, man. A
year ago, you know, someone would have told me I would have met like Chris is one of my favorite musicians of all time. I would have met him, and like I talk to him almost every day. We're like best friends at this point.
Right, and that's why how we ended up hooking up to him.
Yeah, and he gets me all these incredible people. He wanted to ask you from me, do you like his music?
I love his music.
I love it too, man. It's so amazing.
I think he's a rock star, and I think he's great, and he's very personable and cool and humble, and you know.
He really is. He really is. He also wanted me to mention somebody named Ian Field. Does that ring any bells?
Yes, that's my brother, man. I've known him since I was probably 18, back in the days when I was, you know, robbing people for talking shit about the carpet. But I had this, it was weird. I was dating this one girl, and she had this Persian cat, and her neighbor was like some sheik who had a bobcat. Right. And I guess like the lynx ended up sleeping with her Persian cat and had these kittens, and they all came out like with pointy ears and lots of fucking toes. And so I like jumped on it. I was like, I'm taking these little lynx kittens. And so I brought them back to my house, and I ended up kind of slagging them. I was selling weed and you know,
wow.
lynxes. So anyway, Blunt clothing, which was badass, you know.
I remember that. I used to have those shirts, man.
We all had that, you know.
Yeah.
So that was Ian, and he ended up getting one of my cats. Now flash forward, that was like one of his, you know, he had that cat for 12 years or some ridiculous amount of time. So that, and we've always, you know, he's one of these friends who, like, there was different moments in my life when we used to kick it heavy, you know. Obviously there was times when no one would have wanted to hang out with me, but he's kind of stood the test of time. I just saw him. He came down to our show in Palm Springs, And yeah, just good people, man. And you know, now that I'm older and wiser and I've been through some shit, I have no time for fucking having some suckers around me. Like I like to have some real motherfuckers around me, and I make sure that I do it. You know, if someone acts fucking weird, they clipped.
Absolutely,
you know,
man.
no time for it, so.
That's how you got to do it, man. Especially if they're talking shit about your carpet, man.
Exactly.
Oh, so I read this briefly online, but I wanted to save it. I wanted to hear from you.
Yeah.
Did you? Well, you did, but you escaped from a rehab in Antigua. Is that correct?
I escaped from many rehabs. See, here's what happened is Crazy Town went crazy. We went crazy. I'm an emotional creature, just like most musicians. So like when I would get sober and then something would happen, like, you know, like I'd be on tour and my girlfriend would, you know, relapse and sleep with someone I knew, and I'd be like all heartbroken, and I would be like, okay, now I'm going to hurt myself. And I'd go on these tangents. And so everyone around me, you know, management, record label, were like, Seth, get it together. We're going to send you to this rehab. And, you know, I'd always be like, oh man. And so they started sending me to rehabs before I actually was ready to get sober. So like I would do it because I figured I had to if I wanted to stay in the business, but I wasn't ready. And no one's going to get you sober until you're ready to get sober. And I think that they saved my life by me trying to get sober, even when I didn't, because I would get certain amounts of sobriety.
Yeah.
But I really still glamorized it in my head when I get out. You know, like I wasn't scared of what will happen if I stay high like I am now. Back then, I'd be like, man, a couple girls in a bag of cocaine still sounds good.
Right.
So I would, you know, go to these rehabs, and then I would be like, oh no, I'm not ready. So I'd go to a fucking $100,000 rehab and be climbing out the window within 8 hours, you know? And so basically, you know, I left Promises, I left all these rehabs. And then, so there was this amazing thing. It was called the Music Assistance Program, and it was MAP. And basically what it did is, like so many artists suffer who are in the music industry, artists in general, but this was something that was like funded by like Bradley's family, Sublime, and funded by like the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Wow. And all these like rad old addicts who would donate and do shows and donate money to help young musicians and people, you know, roadies, whatever, if they needed help.
Sure.
So you had to qualify for it, but I qualified in every way, shape, and form. So there was this fucking guy, and he was so rad. And Buddy Arnold, he was like an old jazz guy, and he ran MAP. So when I came into MAP and I was like, help, you know, they would get beds at like 5-star resort fucking rehabs, but I would get in there kind of free. You know what I'm saying? Like I would pay something, you know, they would always ask for something, but basically they had beds for fucked up musicians. Yeah. So he would always call me and be like, I got a bed at this place. Want to try again, Seth? You know, and he's like, you're my pet project. I'm going to get you sober. I got to figure it out. Like now I'm obsessed with saving you, you know? And so he would send me places and I'd leave and he'd be like, yeah, fucking punk. And he'd go, the worst part is it took him years and years to get sober. So he goes, you remind me of myself. Yeah. So I really felt comfortable talking to him about how sick I was. And also he didn't give up on me. So one day I get a call and he's like, check it out, Seth. I think I found a place that you can't leave. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, it's on a fucking island in Antigua. And he goes, it's Eric Clapton's rehab. And it's in the Caribbean. He goes, and it's on an island. He goes, so I got you a bed. He goes, if you can get a plane ticket there, you got a free bed. He goes, and I really suggest you go to it. So me, I'm all loaded and I'm like, fuck, dude. Sounds kind of cool. Like I get to go on a vacation. I get to be in the
Antigua,
get sober on some island. I was like, I'm game. So I went to like fucking Val Surf and I got all these clothes like I was going on vacation.
Yeah. Suntan lotion.
Tropical shit, got my suntan lotion. You know, and I'm fucking just loaded all the way to the airport. Problem was I didn't detox properly. So like my sister and her husband got me this plane ticket. I get on the fucking plane and I'm like fear and loathing status. Like my shake turned into a cartoon, like with the amount of cocaine and pills and shit I was doing. I thought it was funny. Everyone else thought it was terrifying. So I get to the airport and I fucking fly into Antigua and yeah, I ended up at this rehab, and somehow I get there and like everyone had gone through there. Like, I don't give a fuck, like Val Kilmer or fucking Britney Spears. And like, it was the spot that they sent all these super wealthy people to, it's Eric Clapton's rehab, man. They cater to all these different kinds of people, but they also cater to a lot of like wealthy moms who have drinking problems that aren't really on my level of insanity. So it was like a mixture of like, drunk soccer moms and,
Sure.
So it was weird. And I landed there and it was some weird situation where my counselor wasn't there and they wanted me to wait till Monday, but I'm coming off like a, half ounce a day cocaine habit, and so like, and pills. So I'm like shaking and they didn't give me any detox meds. So my first instinct was like, I need to get the fuck out of here. So I like tried to, to escape through a goat field and they caught me. And then finally I jumped in the water and I swam the fuck out of there. And it was, there was all these, like, I felt like I was in shape, but I had really been partying like for a couple decades. And like, so like, those cramps you get when you're like in PE.
Yeah.
I got one of those and
right.
Out there in the island. I found out that the island across the way that looked close enough to swim to, but it really wasn't.
Right.
Like I almost died. And like, I don't even know how I made it there, but I did make it there and I did a large amount of cocaine, but I almost died there. And it was, I don't recommend doing it, but anyway, I swam out of there and then, I got then the story continues. I got out of there. I partied in Antigua in the trench town there, basically in the ghettos for about little, like, 10 days.
Wow.
And I went hard, and like it was pretty gross and exciting at the same time. And then, I remember I finally got a ticket out of there. They wouldn't let me come back to the rehab because they had like thought I was dead.
Yeah.
I wasn't. They didn't want me back. So my family flew me back to LA. I remember my manager at the time was like, Seth, the only flight we can get you has a 45-minute layover in Las Vegas. Please make the connection.
Right.
So I land and I'm already kind of coming down. And to top it off, I had a hurt knee, and this guy like next to me on the seat in the plane was like, "Oh, do you need a Vicodin?" And I ended up eating all his Vicodin. So when I landed in Vegas, I land and I'm like, fuck, I don't have time to go into Vegas, but I know I could party in Vegas. And all of a sudden over the loudspeaker, they say, we're having some difficulties and there's going to be like a 2 to 4 hour layover. So then I ended up going into Vegas and partying, for another day or two. And I missed the plane. And, like I was a nightmare, man. All these people were I mean, to me, it's really weird. Like back then, like I was like, haha, like I'm loaded. So I'm living it from one perspective, but in reality, like looking back at it, it's like, man, what the fuck was wrong with you?
Yeah.
But, live and learn, I did have fun. I'd be lying if I didn't have fun.
Right.
But, I also fucking really, a lot of it wasn't fun. So, that's why
right.
I've definitely lived and I've definitely learned a lot from it.
Well, I'm glad you're still here, man. And I'm really excited to hear this new record. And hope to see you out on tour soon, man.
Absolutely. And
I can't wait to get out to
some fucking concerts. New York. You got to come kick it. Also, we should do an interview with the whole band.
Oh, that'd be great, man. I would absolutely love to do that.
I want to introduce you to the rest of the band. So
absolutely. You ever play Jones Beach?
What?
Jones Beach.
Oh, I think
venue out here. Yeah.
Yeah, I played Jones Beach. I'm always down to play Jones Beach.
Man, but, that's my favorite place. If you're ever out there, let me know.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And best wishes to your mom. I hope she has a quick recovery. And
thank you, man. I really appreciate that, and thank you for like really carrying this, man. You answered all my questions without even me really asking them, and you saw it was a little off. And
I'm sorry if I talk too much, man.
No, dude, you made this amazing. You're a very entertaining guy to listen to, and I appreciate you doing that for me. So thank you very much.
Hey, I appreciate you having me on. Plus, course, I need, what is this poster in the background? Because I need that.
Okay, so which one? The cat?
Peeking through the curtains.
Oh, okay. So you know the brand Lurking Class?
Right.
It's a brand.
I don't know it well, but I think I've heard of it.
Yeah, it's basically their flag. I got it at Zoomies. It's like a skate shop kind of place.
I know we got Zoomies out here.
Yeah, I got it there.
Okay, well, if you get a chance, text me a link of what the company's called because I'll forget.
Definitely, man. I buy like all my clothes from them. It's you'll love the style of it too.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to find one.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
And then this guy, we got the cat with middle fingers here. I'm reworking this whole background here. It's I got new logos made. I need building my social media presence.
But
a little
better. You're optimizing. It's a good time to be creative, and don't let anything stop you. The barbershop led you to this.
Yeah, man. It's funny. Right next to me here, you can't see because I can't move my camera, but is my little barbershop. So I do it from home. I'm in a garage, so I built like this. I built like a tent to keep air, like air conditioning and heat in, because I'm in New York. So right now it's like 90 degrees outside. So I'd be sweating to death if I didn't have the AC on.
Right. And in a few months it'll be too cold to be in there.
Yeah, and then exactly. In the wintertime it's like freezing, and people come in here to get their haircut. So not only for me but for other people. So I literally made this like weird fucking thing out of PVC pipe, and
it's working.
It's working so far, man. So.
I wish you luck with all that, and we'll stay in touch.
Definitely, Seth. Thank you for your time, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, brother.
All right.
Have a good
Thank you. You too. Peace.
Hell fucking yeah! It's the Hell Fucking Yeah podcast.